May no family ever be cursed with a father who loves his bottle more than his blood. May no second wife twist her tongue into a whip sharper than hunger itself. May no daughter be forced to trade her youth for the price of her mother's breath. Before we go further, remember to like this story, share it, and subscribe so you never miss the truth behind these village drums. I'm the voice beside the fire tonight. The wind still remembers the night my home broke. The river remembers the sound of my father's rage. The soil remembers the acre of red earth that became both ransom and curse, and I, Naledi, remember everything. They called my mother Ifeoma, tender as dawn, keeper of songs and soil. But my father, Tunda, no longer spoke to her with words. He spoke with the neck of a bottle. Each gulp turned his tongue sour, his hands restless, his eyes blind to love. And beside him always, like a shadow painted in smoke, stood Makena, the woman who married his thirst and sharpened his cruelty. One night, the moon was thin as a coin. The latch of our door lifted, and his crooked steps entered. His breath was wine, his fists were thunder. The chair shivered when he struck it. My mother shivered when his voice split the air. "Useless woman," he spat, "you eat and you rot. Even your sickness is heavy on me." And Makena, smiling through her teeth, whispered fuel into his fire. "She still owns that acre of land. Take it. Make her sign. Why should she keep it for a worthless daughter?" That land, our last inheritance, was the only thing left after bracelets, wrappers, goats, and dignity had been sold for medicine. My mother guarded it like a final heartbeat, promising one day it would be mine. But in that house, promises broke like clay pots under drunken feet. I sat in the corner, trembling, my name spat into dust. Naledi, a star. No, to my father I was only a debt to be exchanged. He lifted the bottle high, and it gleamed like a false moon. "Sell the land," he slurred. "Better yet, sell the girl. Let her marry that rich cripple Makena keeps praising. Then the doctors will cut her open and fix her. That is all she is worth." Silence fell heavier than rain. My mother's breath rasped like paper tearing, her eyes pleading with me not to break. My heart pounded as Makena folded her arms, her lips curling into triumph. She had arranged it all. A man in a mansion, gold to his name, wheels for legs, and an interest in me, not for love, but for possession. That was the night I understood. In our house, my body had become currency, my future a coin to buy back my mother's life. The land was a battlefield, my father a drunk soldier, Makena the general whispering in his ear, and I, Naledi, stood in the middle, the cost of survival written across my skin. The drumbeat of fate began that night. Each strike echoed the bargain I could not refuse. Marry a stranger, save my mother, surrender my youth, and carry the silence of a family broken by thirst and envy. Stay by the fire, traveller, for this is not the end, but only the first step. The road ahead holds betrayal, trials, and the night the bottle demanded blood. Do not leave, for I will tell you how far the curse reached and who paid its price. Before the storm, there was peace. My village sat between hills that hummed with drums at dusk and rivers that carried the laughter of children like beads on water. The sun rose golden and went to sleep crimson, and in those colours I once believed life would always be gentle. They called me Naledi, which means star. When I was little, neighbours would tap my head and say, "Shine bright, child, so the ancestors can see the path." My mother, Ifeoma, was the one who taught me songs that turned chores into joy. Her hands were soft with kindness, though cracked from tilling the earth. Every morning she knelt beside our acre of red soil, whispering prayers as if the land could hear. "This is for you, my daughter," she told me, "so that when you become a wife you will not walk empty-handed into your future." My father, Tunda, was not always a shadow wrapped in wine. Once he was a man the village respected, tall, strong, his laugh loud enough to chase away thunder. He worked the fields, played the drum at festivals, and carried me on his shoulders as if I were a feather. In those days I thought nothing could break us. But temptation is a patient hunter. A sip became a habit became a thirst, and thirst became his new master. Slowly the drum in his hands lost rhythm, the farm lost care, and the house lost laughter. It was during this slow fading that Makena entered our lives. She was younger, her beauty sharp like glass, her voice sweetened with honey yet hiding venom. My father, blinded by his thirst, took her as his second wife. From the first day she stepped into our yard, she looked at my mother not as a sister wife, but as a rival to be erased. Her daughter Lindiwe was my age, but raised with arrogance. Where I scrubbed pots, she painted her nails with crushed berries. Where I bent to fetch water, she tossed her hair and laughed. Still, my mother endured. Ifeoma carried her silence like a shield, greeting Makena with patience, serving the household even when insulted. She'd refused to curse or strike back, believing that dignity was the strongest weapon. But every act of kindness only sharpened Makena's cruelty. She would pour out the water I fetched and order me to refill the pot. She would tell my father, "See how your first wife wastes food, see how her daughter eats while mine goes hungry." And lies fell from her lips like palm kernels, and my father, already drunk, believed each one. Yet for me, the acre of land remained a promise. After every humiliation, my mother would hold my hand, lead me to the edge of the field, and point to the green shoots. "Whatever they take from us, Naledi, they cannot take this soil. This will one day lift you higher." I held on to those words as tightly as a child clutches a calabash of water on a hot day. The village saw, but spoke in whispers. Some elders shook their heads, saying, "The bottle has captured Tunde." Others prayed silently for Ifeoma's strength. And I, too young to stop it, too old to ignore it, learned that even the brightest star can be dimmed by smoke. But smoke always hides a greater fire, and ours was only beginning to burn. The sickness crept into our home like nightfall, slow at first, then suddenly absolute. At the beginning it was only a cough, a weakness in my mother's limbs. But soon she could not rise from her mat. Her skin grew pale, her breath shallow, her voice a thread unravelling. We carried her to the city hospital. The walls smelled of medicine and fear. The doctor, Dr. Kwame, shook his head gravely. "She needs surgery," he said, "and she needs it quickly. Without it, she may not last the season." The cost he named was a mountain we could not climb, 1,000,000 naira. To us it was not just money, it was the horizon itself, unreachable. My father Tunde stood there, swaying from the remnants of drink. Instead of asking questions, instead of clutching my mother's hand, he muttered, "Too much, too much." His eyes drifted to the street outside, as though already searching for the next bottle. My chest hollowed at the sight. We tried everything. My mother sold her wrappers, those bright fabrics that once wrapped her in dignity. I sold the little jewellery I had. Even our cooking pots vanished into other people's kitchens. A goat was led away, bleating, the last sound of livestock in our yard. Yet still the pile of coins on the table was laughable compared to the doctor's demand. Each evening I sat by my mother's side, listening to her whisper, "Naledi, don't cry. Somehow we will find a way. God never sleeps." I wanted to believe her, but the emptiness in our storeroom, the silence of our farm, and the growing bitterness in my father's eyes told a different story. It was then that Makena chose her moment. She entered without knocking, as she always did, her perfume heavy, her arms folded in triumph. Her daughter Lindiwe lingered behind, smirking. "So," Makena said coldly, "the sick woman still breathes. I thought by now we would be free of her burden." My throat burned with anger, but my mother's weak hand squeezed mine. "Do not answer." Makena's smile widened. "But don't despair, Naledi. There is a solution. Someone who wants to help." She leaned closer, her whisper slick with poison. "A man has seen you. He is wealthy beyond measure. He said he will pay all the bills, every coin, if you agree to one thing." My heart pounded. "What is it?" Her eyes glittered. "He wants you as his wife. His name is Kwame. He sits in a chair with wheels, but his pockets overflow. He saw you once at the market and decided, if you say yes, your mother will live." The words struck like thunder. My mother gasped, tried to sit up and collapsed again. I stared at Makena, my lips dry. Marry a man I do not know because he is rich? Makena laughed, a sound without warmth. You have no choice, girl, unless you want your mother to die. That night I wept until my throat ached. My mother lay beside me on the mat, too weak to speak, yet her eyes pleaded for release. Finally, in the silence, I whispered, I'll save you, Mama. I promise I will do anything, even this. The next morning, I followed Makena to Kwame's mansion. It stood at the edge of town, walls high, gates heavy, silence deeper than wealth should allow. He was only 35, but an accident years ago had left him paralyzed from the waist down. He sat in his chair by the window, his face unreadable. He studied me with eyes sharp as knives. Are you doing this because of the money? I swallowed hard. Yes, but I promise to be a good wife. I only want my mother to live. Silence stretched like a rope between us. Then he nodded. Very well. Tomorrow we will marry. I will pay for her surgery today. Tears blurred my sight. Within hours his driver carried bundles of cash to the hospital. My mother was wheeled into the operating room, her frail hand lifted toward heaven. I returned home to pack what little I owned. As I folded my dresses, Lindiwe sneered at me. So now you'll be the cripple's bride. Good luck with that. Makena watched with jealousy that glowed like fire under her skin. I kissed my mother's forehead before leaving. Forgive me, Mama, I whispered. Forgive what I must do. The next day, dressed in a plain gown, I entered Kwame's car. No drums, no dancing, no ululations, only silence. A marriage without music, only tears. The mansion was grand, but it was hollow. When Kwame's driver closed the gates behind me, the air grew still, like a forest where even the birds refused to sing. The walls were painted white, yet no warmth lived in them. Servants glanced at me with pity as though I were a bird caught in a cage of gold. Kwame pointed to a door down the hall. This room is yours, he said, his voice flat. We do not need to act like husband and wife. Do what you came for. Stay out of my way. Then he wheeled himself back into silence. I entered the room and sat on the bed. Soft as clouds, yet heavier than stone. My tears spilled quietly. I had saved my mother's life, but at what cost? Each wall around me felt like another chain. Days blurred together. I woke, bathed, and moved through the mansion like a shadow. Kwame seldom spoke. At breakfast his chair sat empty. When he appeared, he greeted me with cold eyes, ate in silence, and vanished behind closed doors. I found refuge only in the kitchen with Mama Zola, the housekeeper, a woman in her 50s with tired but kind eyes. You are the new wife, she said softly one morning, handing me bread. Yes, Ma, I replied. Then you will need strength, she murmured. In this house, hearts are colder than floors. Her words settled over me like dust. I forced a smile, though inside I felt myself shrinking. One afternoon I carried Kwame's meal to his room. I knocked gently. Come in, he said. His back was to me, his chair facing the window. Leave it on the table. Good morning, sir, I whispered, setting the tray down. He turned slowly, his gaze pierced through me. Do not call me sir. I'm not your master, but neither am I your husband in truth. Remember that. I nodded, unable to speak, and slipped out before my tears betrayed me. While I lived like a ghost in that mansion, the true storm raged in my mother's world. After her surgery, she was still weak but slowly healing. Yet healing is dangerous when enemies prowl. My father, Tunda, drunk with anger and wine, visited her with Makena by his side. You think you are free because you survived? Makena sneered at my mother's bedside. We will see about that. Tunde slammed his fist against the wall, his voice thick with drink. Woman, you will return home, you will cook, you will serve, and you will give me that land. Do you hear? My mother, frail yet unbroken, lifted her eyes. That land is for Naledi. It is her dowry, her future. I will not surrender it. Makena's laughter sliced the air. Foolish woman. You lie in a hospital bed, yet speak of future. Sign it over now, or you will suffer more when you return. When I heard of this visit from Nurse Njeri, my chest tightened like a rope. Your stepmother mocked her, she told me, and your father cursed her. They will not stop until she bends. That night I sat in the mansion's garden, staring at flowers that bloomed without joy. I whispered into the dark, "How long must my mother bleed dignity before they are satisfied?" The days grew heavier. Tunde and Makena visited again, demanding the land. When my mother refused, Tunde struck the table so hard the lamp toppled. "Do you forget I am your husband?" he roared. "That land is mine to drink." But Ifeoma met his rage with trembling strength. "You are no husband to me. You abandoned me in sickness, chose wine over family. That land will never feed your thirst." The room froze. Even Makena's smile faltered for a heartbeat, but hatred rekindled quickly. "We will break you," she hissed. "We will see how long your pride lasts when you crawl." Back in the mansion, I noticed Kwame watching me once as I cried alone in the garden. He wheeled forward slowly. "I know why you're here," he said. "Not for me, not for love, for your mother." I lifted my tear-stained face. "Yes, but I will not dishonor you. I will play the wife if I must." He raised a hand, silencing me. "I do not blame you, but understand this. I have seen women leave me before. They could not carry the weight of my chair. Why should you be different?" His words cut me, but I held my gaze steady. "Because I do not run from storms. I face them, even if it breaks me." He stared a long while, then turned away. I could not tell whether a wall cracked or grew stronger. Meanwhile, Makena poisoned the air further. She told villagers that Ifeoma's survival was a waste, that I had sold myself for wealth. Lindiwe strutted through the market, bragging that she would soon inherit what should have been mine. And Tunde, always drunk, began threatening openly, "If she doesn't sign the land, I'll drag her back with my own hands." The net was tightening. My mother's frail body stood between wolves, and I, bound in a golden prison, could do nothing but weep into silent walls. The whispers of the village turned into storms inside our walls. People said I had sold myself, that my mother and I had traded dignity for coins. Yet in that noise, one voice rose above the rest, Makena's. She slithered into the hospital room where my mother, Ifeoma, lay recovering. "Well, well," she sneered, folding her arms, "so you survived. What a pity. You were supposed to die and free us all from your burden." My mother's chest heaved with effort, but her spirit burned brighter than her weakness. She sat up slowly, eyes blazing. "You evil snake, you stole my husband's heart with lies, you poisoned my home, but I am still alive, and I will not give you that land." Makena laughed high and cruel. "Home? You still call it home? That house belongs to me now, and so will the acre. You'll crawl back, serve me, and watch your daughter rot in that golden cage." "You will suffer," my mother spat, trembling but unafraid. "You and your drunken husband, my God is watching." For once Makena's smile slipped. Rage flickered in her eyes before she stormed out, her heels striking the floor like drums of war. That night I sat with Kwame, trembling from what Nurse Nuri had told me of the confrontation. My voice broke as I explained how my mother feared being dragged home, how my father and Makena threatened to steal the land. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, without hesitation, he picked up his phone. "Go to Central Hospital," he ordered his driver. "Bring Mrs. Ifeoma here. She will stay under my roof. Nobody touches her." I gasped. "Truly?" He looked at me calmly. "I protect what belongs to me." For the first time since our marriage, I felt a crack in his armor. Gratitude spilled from my eyes as tears. That night, when my mother stepped out of the black car into Kwame's compound, she smiled faintly, her frail body wrapped in blankets. I ran to her arms, whispering, "Now I can sleep again." But peace never lasts. The next morning, whispers reached Madame Efua, Kwame's mother. She came to the mansion, her face hard as stone. "Kwame," she said sharply, "you are blinded by this girl. Do you not see? She and her mother are leeches. They came for your wealth." Kwame shook his head. "You're wrong, Mama. Naledi has asked for nothing. She gave up her youth to save her mother. But Madame Efua was relentless. If she truly loves you, test her. Pretend you're dying. Pretend you need a kidney. Then we will see if she stays or runs." Kwame's voice rose. "Mama, that is cruel." "It is necessary," she snapped. "I will not bless this marriage until truth is proven." I knew nothing of their argument until the day a call came from the hospital. "Your husband collapsed," Dr. Kamau told me gravely. "He needs a kidney transplant. Without it, 1 month at most." My world shattered. I rushed with my mother to his bedside, only to be told we could not see him. In the doctor's office, I pleaded, "Take mine. Take my kidney. Save him." My mother, weak but fierce, stood beside me. "No, take mine. I am older. Let her live." Our voices overlapped in desperation. The doctor's eyes softened as though he had found the proof he needed. In a hidden room, Kwame sat upright listening. The doctor whispered, "Both of them, mother and daughter, offered their lives without hesitation." Shame filled Kwame's chest. He had obeyed his mother, but now he knew the truth. I had never been a leech. My love was real, even if born from desperation. That evening, Madame Afua returned, her stern mask cracking. She entered my room and took my hands. "Naledi, forgive me," she whispered. "I doubted you, but today you proved yourself. You are my daughter now." I was bewildered. "Where is Kwame? Is he alive?" Her lips trembled. "Yes, he will tell you himself." Moments later, the door opened. My heart froze. Kwame walked slowly, painfully, but he walked. I stumbled back. You can stand?" His eyes glistened with tears. "Naledi, forgive me. I was never crippled. I healed long ago, but I hid in that chair because I trusted no one. And this sickness, this kidney story, was my mother's test. I should never have agreed, but now I know. You love me. Not my money, not my name, me. My tears fell freely. You lied, you broke me. And yet, all I can feel is relief that you live." He held my hands, his voice trembling. "No more lies, no more tests. From this day, truth only. I love you, Naledi, truly." And there, in that confession, the drum of revelation struck louder than all before. The mansion that once felt like a cage now breathed with warmth. For the first time, Kwame spoke to me not with suspicion, but with love. His hand no longer pushed wheels, it clasped mine. He said softly, "Let us do it again, Naledi. Not the silent marriage, not the bargain. A true wedding, with joy, with drums, with truth." My heart, weary yet hopeful, answered, "Yes, this time as husband and wife in light, not shadow." Word spread quickly. Villagers whispered that the crippled man had risen, that the girl who once wept in silence now smiled again. Some praised, some envied, but no envy burned hotter than in my father's house. Makena paced the floor like a restless snake. "So now she will wed him properly in glory, while we sit here mocked?" Lindiwe hissed, "It should have been me. I was meant to live in that mansion." And Tunda, glass in hand, laughed bitterly, wine spilling down his beard. "We will go. We will crush this celebration. She thinks she can defy me. She will learn." By morning, his thirst was his driver. He staggered to the car, dragging Makena and Lindiwe with him. The bottle sat between his legs as he turned the key. "Today," he slurred, "we show them who owns this family." The road stretched like a snake winding toward the city. Tunde pressed harder on the pedal, eyes red, mind clouded. Makena shouted from the back, "Faster! Let us arrive before the vows are spoken." Lindiwe laughed, cruel and wild. None of them saw the bend ahead. The truck appeared, suddenly, heavy with timber. Tunda, blinded by drink, swerved too late. Tires screamed. The car twisted, flipped, and fell into the ditch. The crash thundered across the hills. When villagers reached the wreckage, silence was the only passenger. News travelled swift. It reached me as I prepared my gown of white. My hands trembled when the call ended. Kwame read the grief on my face. "What is it?" he asked. I whispered, "My father, Makena, Lindiwe. They are gone. The road took them." For a long moment, silence filled the room. Then I sank into a chair, tears sliding down my cheeks. Not because they loved me, not because they cherished me, but because hatred drove them faster than life could hold. They destroyed themselves. My mother, Ifeomai, frail but strong, laid her hand on mine. Her eyes carried no gloating, only weary truth. Daughter, I told you, evil devours itself. We chose patience, they chose rage. See now the harvest of their planting. I sobbed, torn between sorrow and relief. Kwame knelt before me, holding my face. You are free now, Naledi. The chains of their cruelty are broken. Do not let guilt dwell where it does not belong. The wedding still went forward, not with noise of spite, but with drums of renewal. Elders blessed us, children danced, and for the first time, I laughed without fear. That night, as the fire burned low, my mother spoke one last truth. Remember, child, what is meant for you will not pass you by, and what is not yours, no matter how you chase it, will never stay. Your father chased wine, Makena chased power, Lindiwe chased envy. Look where it led. Let their story be a warning carved into stone. I nodded, my heart both heavy and light. The curse had broken, not by fighting with their weapons, but by holding on to love, patience, and truth. So, traveller by the fire, you have heard the tale. A father who lifted the bottle above his blood, a second wife who sharpened envy into a weapon, a daughter who carried silence like armour, and a love that was tested, broken, and reborn. In the end, the road itself judged the guilty, while patience delivered peace. Tell me, what lesson did you take from Naledi's journey? Write it in the comments below, for stories only live when they are shared. If you felt her pain and her triumph, give this story a like and subscribe so that every beat of the drum, every whisper of the ancestors finds you again. And do not keep it to yourself. Share this tale, so others may see that greed, envy, and drink destroy not only the heart, but the home. Until the next story, may your choices lead you to light, not to darkness. May you raise love higher than pride, and truth higher than thirst. The fire dies tonight, but the lesson burns on.